Welcome to Pop History. This episode looks at the story behind some of the popular events from October 1980. Let's get started. On October 2nd, in a fight dubbed the Last Hurrah, retired former champion Muhammad Ali faced Larry Holmes for the World Boxing Council Heavyweight Championship. The fight was originally supposed to take place in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, but was moved to Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas. Concerned for Ali's health, the Nevada State Athletic Commission requested that he be examined by a doctor before they would grant him a boxing license. The physician from the Mayo Clinic who performed the test determined that there was nothing to prohibit the former champ from fighting, even though he found that Ali had deficiencies in functionality and agility. His report was never released to the public, and Ali was given the license. Ali, who looked to be in great shape, was dominated in every round by his opponent. Though there were no knockdowns, Ali's trainer, Angelo Dundee, stopped the fight at the end of the 10th round, throwing in the towel, giving Holmes the win by technical knockout. The fight was watched by a record 2 billion followers worldwide. On October 6th, the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Houston Astros played in a tiebreaker game to determine the National League West division winner after both teams finished the regular season with the same record, 92 wins and 70 losses. This was only the 7th time in Major League Baseball history that a tie-breaking game was required. The Astros ended up winning 7-1, thereby clinching the National League West pennant. They went on to lose, however, in the National League Championship Series 3-2 to the Philadelphia Phillies. This series, which ran from October 7th to October 12th, is also memorable as 4 of the 5 games went into extra innings. On October 8th, stuntman Jaromir Wagner set a record in the sport of wing walking, becoming the first person to cross the Atlantic Ocean on the outside of an airplane. Wagner, who spent his entire time in the air standing and walking on top of the wing of a twin-engine plane, had departed Gießen in West Germany on September 27th and made stops along the way in Scotland, the Faroe Islands, Iceland, Greenland, Newfoundland, and Vermont before finally landing in Fairfield, New Jersey. Also on October 8th, a blimp that Jordache Clothing Company was using to advertise its designer jeans crashed at 8:15 a.m. shortly after departing from Lakehurst, New Jersey. The blimp, which was ultimately headed to a fashion show at New York's Battery Park, split a seam just after takeoff and began deflating. Luckily, the pilot, James Boza, was able to make a controlled landing and no one was injured. Ironically, the crash site was only about a half a mile from the site of the 1937 Hindenburg disaster. On October 9th, John Hinckley Jr. was arrested in Nashville, Tennessee, after attempting to board an American Airlines flight with a handgun. The weapon was discovered in his carry-on luggage. Since he had no prior convictions, he was allowed to plead guilty to a misdemeanor, fined, and released. Though it was not known at the time, Hinckley had apparently been stalking President Carter, following him to his campaign stop in Nashville. Investigators later discovered that just a week before, Hinckley had gone to see President Jimmy Carter at his campaign stop at Dayton, Ohio. At the time, it's believed that Hinckley stood within 6 feet of the president. Hinckley would later shoot Carter's successor, U.S. President Ronald Reagan, on March 30th, 1981. On October 11th, the National Basketball Association's newest team, the Dallas Mavericks, played their first game. The league gave permission for a Dallas NBA franchise after the owners had voted in February during an NBA All-Star game to admit the new team. In their first contest, the Mavericks, named after a popular late 1950s TV Western, faced the San Antonio Spurs, pulling off their first victory, winning 103-92. Throughout the rest of the 1980s, the Mavericks became a fixture in the NBA playoffs, led by All-Stars Rolando Blackman, Mark Aguirre, and Jay Vincent, who were all drafted the following year, and Sam Perkins, who was drafted in 1984. The Mavs finally advanced to their first NBA Finals in 2006 and won their first title in 2011. On October 21st, the Philadelphia Phillies defeated the Kansas City Royals in 6 games to win the World Series. The Phillies had reached the championship by defeating the Houston Astros for the National League pennant, the Royals by sweeping the Yankees to win the American League. The Royals, led by third baseman George Brett, were favored to win, the Phillies seen as historically one of the worst teams in the National League. This season, however, Philadelphia fielded a team that was made up of future Hall of Famers Mike Schmidt, Steve Carlton, and Pete Rose, who was Philadelphia's first ever free agent signing. Other talent included Gary Maddox, Greg Luzinski, and Tug McGraw. This series is most remembered for the final game, Game 6, which ended with Tug McGraw striking out Willie Wilson with bases loaded. The final pitch was delivered at 11:29 p.m., making this one of the latest games ever played. This pitch also marked the 12th time Wilson was struck out throughout the 6 games, setting a World Series record. The Phillies won the game 4-1, and the series 4-2. Mike Schmidt was named Series MVP. This was the first World Series games to be entirely played on artificial turf, the first championship since before the Great Depression, in which neither team had a previous World Series title, and the most watched game in World Series history, its viewing audience totaling nearly 55 million viewers. That wraps up our look at pop history from October 1980. Keep an eye out for our next episode, coming soon, when we will look back at November of that year. For now, as always, thank you for watching and joining us in this stroll through our memories from 1980.